Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Around the Realm. My name is Zelda Black, and I am here with Ashley Poprik, who plays Ravenne. So, Ashley, if you want to just start with like a little bit of an intro about yourself, I know you were previously on for season 1. You were the director for Sovereign of Death. So, just in case for people that haven't met you yet, if we have a new audience for season 2, just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. I am Ashley Poprik, and I am a video game writer. I am currently at High Moon Studios working on the Call of Duty franchise. Can't really say much more about that. But yeah, I was as Zelda said, the director for Sovereign of Death, and that was the first time that I really got to see how like role-playing games worked. And I was like, please, Carmen, like let me in, and so that's how I got as a cast member on this, and it was so fun. I've been waiting for like forever for this to come out, so I'm really happy to be here. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited. So how did you meet Carmen? And so, like you became involved in season 2 because you were previously directed with season 1, but how did you meet Carmen and even become involved in Realms and Roleplay?
We were actually a part of a game writers collective over in Austin. I didn't really know a whole lot of people that were in the video games just writing space, and I had been talking with somebody who was also a Austin-based game writer. Her name is Susan O'Connor, and she was like, "Oh, I don't know if you know Carmen Askernies, but he's really awesome." And there's this game writers collective kind of group. So I went once. Unfortunately, only got to go once before COVID kind of took that away. But we met in person and just kind of hit it off. Like he was super duper cool, and yeah, that's really how we met. I got actually into the Realms and Roleplayed side of things because he was actually helping me with an informational, or not an informational, but helping me with a practice interview for Insomniac Games, because I was going to be interviewing for them pretty soon and was really nervous. And so he was really gracious and let me kind of do a practice interview with him. And I gave him a copy of my resume, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, you have so much like film related experience on here. That's awesome." And I think that kind of sparked his interest in having me on, just working on, the television side of things. But I very quickly got, interested in being in front of the camera too.
Oh, that's sweet. I think I remember that from last time, but I didn't know that. I think I don't remember that it was the interview that he saw your resume in that. Ah, well,
Yeah,
neat.
it just like it was weird. It had never come up previously. I wasn't like, "Oh yeah, I do film stuff." And so I think just literally seeing it out on a piece of paper, he's like, "Oh, that's wait a minute, like that." Hey, that would work pretty nicely, actually. So
Hey, wait a minute! You're actually exactly what I'm looking for.
yeah, so yeah, by the time that we had that practice interview and had gotten started on Realms and Roleplay, the pandemic had happened, and it was really nice kind of being a part of a project that we could do fully online, and it wasn't like hindered by the fact that it was remote.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is fully able to do remote, and it was just probably such an escape for you guys with like, lock down everything. It was just like a form of socialization that you could have and like to escape in this like whole new type of world. And I can't remember, was season 2 in like strictly lockdown times? I think Mylan was saying that it was like kind of open, society was kind of open by then.
It was getting there. It was I'm trying to think. We started in the fall of 2020. So things were like slowly starting to get a little bit more open, but
Mhm.
not super in person and social type of events were coming out. So it still made sense to do this remote. And I think
Yeah.
especially after trying season 1, we realized just how it was able to work, and we could have cast members from different spots, and not all have to be, traveling somewhere to sit in a room together. So it ended up working out really well.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I don't think everybody was in one location in the cast, again, laid
Hmm.
out absolutely
Hmm.
perfect.
Yeah, it's funny. I still haven't met a good majority of them in person.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it wasn't until I moved that I started meeting a couple. I've met Ryan and Larissa IRL, but I still haven't seen Mylan or Aaron, which were also in season one. I don't know if they have legs. I don't know their height. It's a full mystery to me.
I don't know if they have legs. I don't know. They might not be real. You never know. They might be
That's
holograms.
true.
I don't
They could
know.
both be e-girls.
Because I have
They've got
not.
the looks for it.
I haven't met Mylan or Aaron either, so
Uh-oh.
I don't know.
Mystery.
I mean, Carmen says that he's met Aaron, but I don't know.
Hmm.
Hmm. I
I
know,
mean, I
Mylan or Aaron, if
haven't.
you're watching this, we're gonna need some proof. So, I don't know if you guys want to meet for lunch or something, but we're gonna need some
True.
proof that you exist. So.
Yeah, could go for like grilled cheese and tomato soup somewhere, you know?
So being the director on season one, it was probably such a different feel, and like you said, it kind of opened the world of tabletop for you. So how was it feel? How was it like being a shift of like just behind the scenes from being a director to up in front of the cast for season two?
It was really cool. It had I feel like a very different feel just mentally because as a director, I was having to make sure that everything sounded right and that everybody's cameras were, on and like working and that everything was being recorded and making sure that all the story points that were being said were being written down. That was really important just so that we don't end up missing anything. So there was a lot more like technical aspects
Hmm.
involved with being a director. Thinking about, you know, what worked, what could be, you know, further elaborated on in further episodes. I would usually meet with Carmen afterward, just being like, cool, here's the things that like, worked. This is, something that really stood out. Um, and then just like checking to make sure that everything, you know, went in and recorded as planned. Being a cast member is a lot more creatively driven. I think instead of recording things as they're happening for like future purposes, you're kind of just like in the present all the time, kind of having like improv mindset, just being like, okay, yes, this is what we should do next. This is what my character is thinking in this like exact moment, and this is how they're going to react. This is my character's current relationship with these people. How are they going to interact? A lot more just like in the moment, creative improv thinking. And I'm very thankful that somebody else took notes because I was just going off. uh, yeah, so that is like the big difference. I would say they were just very vastly different experiences, but I really like appreciate them both. I can't say that you could do both at the same time though.
Yeah, okay, that's kind of
Yeah.
no. I don't think you could. I mean, I was always thinking about that too. It was like, are people somebody writing this down, or like do they just have like brilliant memories? I mean, my memory sucks.
No.
There's no way that I could have like
Yeah.
remembered this. But yeah, no, thank you for just like just like writing everything down and just. It's interesting too, like just like delving into like what the actual like the job of the director is like, and just kind of like
Mhm.
putting the pieces together, making sure it looks good, and then just having that creative freedom. So I love Raven so much. There's so many funny moments with Raven. And one thing that I particularly love about season 2 is that they start off everybody doesn't start off buddy buddy like Sovereign of Death. Like everybody was already close friends. They were the Glee crew. And I feel like this crew starts off very separate, and even though there are like
Yes.
relationships like Sid and Gizmo are pretty tight, and like Ruby and Zigzag know each other. They're not exactly buddy buddy, but Raven's just so freaking funny. So, what was your process like making Raven? Like, and do you have like similar qualities or different qualities to her? Like, what was it like making the character?
Yeah, you're totally right. Everyone at the start of season two is like a freaking hater. um, we're all like having beef with each other. It's funny because I was kind of thinking like, oh, Raven is in some ways a almost like lone wolf. Like doesn't do things like in partnerships, doesn't have like close relationships, doesn't have, a family, nobody to live with. Just I mean, in terms of loved ones, it's kind of like, the list is empty. And I was thinking like, would that make this character like a cold-hearted person? Would they be, tough and like bad and like ooh, and would they have to suffer that for like the remainder of the season? Um, and the more I thought about it, the more I was like, when you don't have the responsibilities of another person on you, there's a lot more room just to be chaotic and crazy. And when you've lived your entire life not having kind of a group of people to also think about, then you just do actions that don't take people into account. And that makes people very upset. um, and so that was kind of my thinking when making Raven, was just like, how can we take this chaos monger and slowly turn this person into like someone who can work in a team and can be useful? Because I think at the end of the day, like Raven does want to have like a community and a family, but just hasn't had it before and doesn't really know how that kind of communication system works. So I was really enjoying getting to explore that this season. And I would say in some ways I'm similar to Raven, but not a lot. I think one of the fun things too about just role playing in general is that you can do all sorts of things that like you can't do in real life, whether that's, something that's cool and epic and like physically outside of your talent wheel, or just like actions and reactions that you can have that you definitely could not have in real life, or you'd be sent straight to the psych ward. um so I think I share some of the same like almost inner anxieties as Raven, being like, okay, I need to be able to make this work. I need to find a way to do this like without hurting anybody else, but like, how can I do this? How can I do something well? And sometimes in that process, I can like silo myself off from other people. But definitely in other ways, we are very, very different. I would say Raven thinks, I mean, Raven doesn't think before she does anything. Usually it's like, this seems right. Let's go. And I would say that on the other end, I overthink before I do something, and it takes forever for me to take an action. So I should really take a couple notes from Raven, not too many, um, on decision making and action taking.
Yeah, I mean, because like Raven was just still trying to find trying to find a family, and just unfortunately did not run into like the cuddliest welcome bunch. And it's just so funny because it was just like when they first met each other. I remember, I think it was sitting Gizmo, I think we're passing Raven, and then she's like, oh, hope you feel better. And that was it. And then the gutter scene when they were at Ruby's place, I think that was the previous episode, like, guys, watch this, and then just hitting the gutter. It's just those chaotic, like, like the chaotic Raven moments absolutely like make like the chef's kiss of like all these moments, like these high intensive moments, like Raven's chaoticness and sitting Gizmo's like love of food is just, it's just both like, it makes it's so enjoyable and so funny, like how people play off of each other yet again, because like Ruby's like serious, and then Zigzag's like, I feel like Aaron was usually playing like all the mom characters, like Win Snapdragon's very much a mom, and then Zigzag's just like, don't tell me what to do, and Ruby's being the mom. And it's just really, this just the whole story is just chef's kiss.
Yeah, I love all of the characters in this one. And yeah, it's so funny because I think when you think of a lot of loner characters, they're very, oh, I don't know how to be nice, so I'm going to be just like a meanie head and close myself off. And this, in some ways, like, you are closing yourself off, but instead of like, I don't know how to be nice, so I'm going to be mean, it's like, I don't know how to be nice, so I'm just going to be really, really kind in inopportune spots and see if that
Yes.
works.
Yes, that's like a perfect description because you're right. I mean, there's so many stereotypical loner characters like, "Don't talk to me." Darkness. And then there's Raven who's just like the opposite, is like loving, like just like wanting to try, and that's what I love about it.
Mhm.
So what advice would you give to somebody that would be like, "Hey, I want to make a tabletop character." What advice do you have?
Yeah, I just in general, when I'm making a fictional character, I like to think about just what type of problems, especially like internally, interest me, and what are some things that I can explore. I feel like a lot of characters are kind of rooted in psychology, and I like being able to try to figure out just like, okay, if you're in this headspace, then what is your thinking like? Like, how does your day-to-day life work and what are your actions, especially when you're being put with something like really epic and awesome and magical, and otherworldly. And so I would say, you know, just kind of look in yourself and be like, what type of people interest you? Things that you don't have answers to yet that you are questioning and are like, I wonder what would happen if, this type of person was in this situation. Like, this is the perfect time for you to test that out. And so just trying new things is always something that I recommend when you're making a tabletop character. Try to explore outside of yourself. I mean, you're always having to think as yourself in your day-to-day life, and this is like your one opportunity for you to like really get into a like entirely different headspace, somebody else's head, honestly. So take advantage of it.
Yeah, definitely. There's just like such a creative freedom to tabletop in general, and this time for season 2 we were playing Cyberpunk and as opposed to D&D. So, have you played did you ever play Cyberpunk before?
I haven't. No. This was my first time, and it was awesome. I I can't say that I'm like a D&D hater, but I think you know just in terms of genre, anytime I feel like the fantasy medieval is paired up against like beat boop sci-fi, I always gravitate towards the freaking beat boop sci-fi.
The beep
It's
boop.
like it's like a character flaw of mine, I swear. Like I just love it for no reason. And I was like, oh yeah, like, D&D seems really cool, but I don't know if that's like really for me. I don't know that much about like fantasy, and uh it's hard for me to kind of like get into that world. And Cyberpunk, it just felt like it like fit really well, and there was so many interesting things to explore. Because I mean the mechanics of it are just awesome. There's a lot of things to consider, um, and it's all just like really, really great world building that I feel like you can fall in love with pretty quickly.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like there's different aspects of each to explore. I feel like you're right. D&D is like definitely complicated because you have like, you can choose to be a tiefling or anything else, and it's a different thing to talk about, as like to flesh out in these fantasy worlds, as opposed to like Cyberpunk, because it's kind of like the real life. And I believe you guys played like the Jumpstart kit, I believe.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and I feel like it's just a different type of aesthetic to explore. I personally like I gravitate towards more like medieval fantasy, but I do love
Mm.
the beep boop bop sci-fi as well.
Yeah, it's like I wish that I liked medieval fantasy more, because I'm also seeing it. I'm playing through like just like the branching video games, Mass Effect and Dragon Age, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, like Dragon Age is so much better." And I'm now kind of finishing up, and I can't agree quite yet. I really really like Mass Effect, which is something that just deeply surprises me. And I wouldn't even say necessarily like the story is better. I just like being on a spaceship and there being aliens.
Well, I mean, we're probably gonna know the answer to this real quick, but do you think you'd rather want to live in Night City or the Land of Yashan, and why?
Oh, I mean probably Night City out of the two of them. Um, which is a weird I don't know, which is weird to say because I feel like the Land of Yashan is probably like a little bit safer. I have a higher survivability chance, maybe. Uh, Perhaps.
I don't know. I mean, I was talking about this with Mylan too. I'm like, well, the land of Ishan has like orcs and dragons and other stuff and like magic curses and everything, but I don't know if I'd survive in Night City.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like Night City, I mean, you're not really scared of mythical creatures as much as you are just like your next door neighbor
Yeah.
and the guy who's like parked behind you and like whoever's giving you your food that evening, like
Yeah.
I feel like in Night City it has definitely more of a culture of like you can't trust anyone or anything. And Land of Yashan, like they are fighting, I mean, things that are, I mean, if I had to take on a dragon versus a human, I would probably take my chances on the human. But,
Yeah.
you have more of like a community of people that are also fighting those things. So you have a higher chance of just being a little villager with your other villager friends. But that being said, Night City sounds cool, and I like neon lights, so
Yeah, that works.
you
Yeah,
know what?
Land of Ishan does not have neon lights.
It's true. And you know what? If I live in Night City, then I probably have had enough like cybernetic enhancements to where I could at least make it a little bit there.
That's
So
true. That's true. Yeah. I mean, you take a shot in the dark with Landia. Like, it depends on where, I guess, and the likelihood of dragon attacks, curses. You just gotta pick a village and hope you can hide in there. um.
exactly.
What's something without spoilers that you are most excited for the audience to see?
Ooh, I mean, really, I'm just really excited for you all to see how the relationship flourishes between all of these characters. I mean, you're really in for a treat because these are people that like they either didn't know each other or even at the start they haven't liked each other. And you're going to see just kind of how when you have such like a hard start, um, how you can journey through this really cool adventure, all kind of going towards the same external goal. How those relationships continue to form, and what becomes of that.
Yes, I so agree. Like, I love the contrast between season 1 and season 2. And I can't say much more because we're only on episode 4, but
It's
there is so
true.
much more that you guys have to see, especially like when it comes to our little group here. So, with that being said about our little group, we're going to do a quick episode recap for you. So that way you can all be prepared for the next episode coming out.
Woo
Woot
woo.
woot! So, we left off with Sid, Raven, and Gizmo at Afterlife, and we had just left off in the last episode where Raven just punched Bit in the face. But yeah, I mean, Raven is actually really smart and diverts the situation. Be like, ah, my cyber arm, I'm so sorry. Just I love Bit's design with like the little emotes on the cap.
Yes.
It's so freaking cool. If I can get that, like if anybody knows how to make that.
Hey, hit
But
me up too, okay?
yeah, right. Make that too. But Bit's willing to talk this out. So Ruby, I love the whole fight between like Ruby and Zigzag for Quadara, and this part is so funny because Ruby and Quadara are trying to go for drinks until the gang disrupts them completely, and then Ruby sees that, but just is still on her date with Quadara. I love that she doesn't help. Uh, so Ruby sends a picture of her kissing Quadara because Zigzag is currently reunited with Rian, her ex-boyfriend, and Zigzag's just like completely ignoring the message right now because Rian seems to be in trouble and needs to speak with Ma Benito. So Bit is offering the group the chance to join the Novas and for Raven to come back in exchange for Bit not killing them because they're kind of caught in the Nova's clutches right now and they don't really have another option. So they're interested and Bit is going to give them a test job. The test job being they have to protect some big name. Ruby has a really funny rejection with Quadara because Quadara's like, well, I was originally trying to go after Zigzag, but some things just work out, and then she just rejects Quadara. She's gonna regret that later, and we'll let you know because she just walks out, and the gang is reunited back again, but they don't know where Zigzag is because Ruby was supposed to watch Zigzag.
Whoops.
And yep, whoops, and just
Uh-oh.
takes it out on Sid, Gizmo, and Raven. Like, you guys are supposed to watch it. Like, actually, no, we were going to Afterlife. You were supposed to watch her. It's just a really funny exchange. And so Zigzag is gonna sends her location, and she has her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend Rian, who is just in need of needing to meet Ma Benito. So she's like, all right, we're all gonna go, and Bug gets them all to Ma Benito's place, a secret place, the Benito Ranch, and uh, Brian is pretty much saying, like, hey, I. He came out of the slammer and he's like, I have this thing for you, and it turns out to be a holodisc, and that holodisc has a man called Jafari Haji, who is the mob boss and the most powerful of like the High Riders. So the High Riders are like the real big bad, and that's like a really bad problem. But meanwhile, Sid and Gizmo are just like completely enjoying the feast, and they're just like they not a care in the world. But a bunch of AVs all of a sudden are rushing into the Benito Ranch, and Ma Benito and Rian decide to stay while Bug takes Zigzag and the rest of her friends to to a shelter, like this underground place. And so Sid and all of her friends are rushed to the safe room, and then Rian and Moxie stay behind. So while we left off is our gang seeing an underground world. So I don't know.
Ooh.
Uh-oh, what's gonna
What'll
happen?
happen?
Uh-oh.
Tune in to find out.
Yeah, I guess you gotta tune in the next episode to find out. So
Woohoo.
thank you so much, Ashley, for coming on and talking about Raven for us, and just talking to us about episode 4.
Heck yeah. Thank you for having me, Zelda.
Yeah, thank you. And we will see you next time, everybody. Be sure to tune in to next week's episode.